This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also for the most part unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks.
And for the 64th time ever, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Reviewing Network Live, or as I like to consider this week, my biggest challenge of coming back after being sick all week. And as you can tell from my voice, I'm still kind of sick. I don't have a fever anymore, but it's definitely more of the cough and the sore throat. So that's why my voice sounds a little bit lower than usual, a little bit raspier. And considering I'm going to be talking for an hour and a half here, this is going to be my biggest challenge because I'm going to try to do as much of this as I can without coughing as much. I'm not making any guarantees. I'm not going to do that because obviously that's completely out of my control. It's just the medicine working in and just after the last bit of this fever that I've had just trying to get out of me, and I guess that's the only way you can do that, But I digress. So yeah, it's been a very interesting week in my life. I've been sick. I had a really bad fever Wednesday night. I missed work on Thursday. Was able to go on Friday, so that's why I was able to power my way through on Saturday to get the footage for the Black Panther home game of the season. If you want to go check that out on the latest Movie Stuff episode, I'll leave that in the corner. But I figure we have a lot of stories to cover from the last 2 weeks because I didn't do a regular show last week either. I did the Steelers Commanders rewatch, which you go check that out as well. But over the last 2 weeks, there's been some notable stories to talk about, and yeah. So let's see if I can do this. Let's see if I can power through this. Okay. Crunch time, baby, let's go. And as we usually do here, we will start with the top 5 this week, which was not a very interesting top 5, except for the number 1 movie, which we'll get to in a little bit here, but we can run through the 2 through 5 as usual pretty quickly. Number 5 this week is DreamWorks' The Wild Robot, still hanging in there. Probably its last week in the top 5, considering that we've got Wicked and Gladiator 2 coming out next week. It's been holding on very well, $4.3 million, dropping about 35% from last week. 8 weeks out, it's been making over $137 million worldwide. I think it was up to $300 million. It's now over $308 million worldwide, so big hit overall. Now just waiting for it to come out on Blu-ray so I can have it in my collection. So with that said, moving on to number 4 here, we have Hugh Grant's Heretic, the new A24 movie, which brought in $5.2 million, dropping 52% from last week. So not really that bad for a horror film drop-off, considering that usually they're about 60 to 70% because they're very heavily front-loaded. But $20.4 million after 2 weeks. The film has now brought in $25 million worldwide. It's a very low-budgeted movie, so it made its money back and then some. Number 3 on the list, we have the Best Christmas Pageant Ever, the latest film from the holiday film from Lionsgate with Pete Holmes and Judy Greer, based off the book. Of course, it's Christmas time coming up, so it's going to stick around here a little bit here. It had a big drop-off this week, $5.4 million, dropping near 50%, $19.9 million after 2 weeks. Worldwide, it has not opened internationally yet, but it was also a low-budgeted movie, and we still got the holiday season coming up, so it really won't surprise me if this movie makes more money over the holiday season, so they aren't really shaking in on that one. Which brings us to the number 2 movie, which has been the number 1 movie for the last 3 weeks, and that is Venom: The Last Dance, which brought in $7.4 million this week, dropping 53% from last week because there's new competition this week. $127.6 million after 4 weeks, but worldwide it's already over $436 million. So it's eventually made its money back overall. There's an audience for this series of films. And now all the attention will now turn to Kraven the Hunter, coming out on December 13th. First R-rated movie in the Sony non-Spider-Man-ish universe. And, yeah. be interesting to see how that turns out. So that comes out on the 13th, and then we'll probably stick around here until we get the swap of the new holiday releases coming up starting next week. But that brings us to the number one movie this week, which is certainly a definitely interesting topic of discussion that we'll have here. First, let me tell you what it is. The number one movie this week is Red One. Now, if you don't know what this movie is, it's the movie where Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans essentially go to find Santa Claus. But no, it's not a funny comedy. It's a serious action comedy directed by the guy who did Jumanji. After Santa Claus, codenamed Red One, is kidnapped, the North Pole's head of security, played by Dwayne Johnson, must team up with the world's most infamous bounty hunter, Chris Evans, in a globe-trotting, action-packed mission to save Christmas. Felt some coughs coming on, so that's why I stopped. But I'm going to get some on here anyway. But $34 million, which doesn't sound too bad. Worldwide, it's up to $84 million, which, again, doesn't sound terrible. But then you look at how much the movie cost to make. $200 million. Yeah, ordinarily, I would say that this movie is going to be instantly forgotten. See, see exactly what I was talking about here. But, yeah. On paper, this sounds like a film that's going to be dead on arrival, going to get out of here pretty quickly. But keep in mind that this is the holiday season, and big holiday competition is very scarce this year for Christmas movies in general. So they've got that going forward to them. But, yeah, this is another one of those movies that was originally supposed to go to streaming, and then MGM realized that there's a possibility for this movie to become a new franchise, so they put it on the big screen, and the results right now are a mixed bag. I think they're waiting to see what happens with the holiday season going forward. I think they're playing with the idea that this is going to have some traction during the holiday season, as it should, but there's a story on Deadline Hollywood about this, saying about this. This is from Anthony D'Alessandro, who says, Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans' $200 million Christmas action movie Red One opens to $34 million. Is it a bomb or a streamer's rounding error? And it says, treat them the same way you treat us, how dare you, are some of the screams I've been getting from traditional movie studios when it comes to the chilly box office performance of the Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans' $200 million Christmas action movie Red One. No, it's $250 million, exclaims an Amazon vet with knowledge. After opening at $34 million after a $10.9 million Friday and even a Saturday family lift of $13.2 million, we can't ignore the fact that we've seen better from The Rock as far as the solo non-Fast and Furious projects go. So yeah, The Rock, he's been on kind of a little bit of not want to say a downward spiral, but there's definitely more negativity about him as of late. And there was that story a couple months ago where somebody said that he was peeing in water bottles during the set of this movie, and I think he was also saying to get people to drink it or something. But not only that, but movies like Black Adam, a lot of those movies really kind of lowered his appeal to most people in general here. But the big thing with this movie in general comes down to a couple things. One, the budget. It's a $200 million movie. We've already talked time and time again about how Apple and their $200 million movies that they always keep putting out are never going to make any money back because you put them out in a small amount of in one little place where you can't get that money back, and you never release them on physical media. So what's the point? Like, what's the whole idea? So why even do it? Like, I know you've got the money to do it, but if you're never going to make any money back for them, why the hell would you even bother with it? Like, put them out on physical media if you want to make money back. Like, Sony made a big deal about pulling Wolves from theaters and just sending it straight to Apple. That was another $200 million movie. It had George Clooney, Brad Pitt, directed by John Watts, the director of the Spider-Man movies. Like, just what the hell, man? Honestly. But the story goes on here. But damn if this isn't a high budget. That's the biggest problem here with Red One. However, that's what you get when you do business with industrial complex that is The Rock. The gossip can cry tardiness, entourage, water bottles, schedules, studio execs asleep at the wheel, and an exorbitant amount of jelly beans in Rock's trailer. It doesn't matter. Capiche? This is what it costs to get into business with Johnson, and the only ones who are bold enough to invest in that endeavor are streamers like Netflix with Red Notice and Amazon MGM Studios here with Red One. He's not wrong. I mean, Netflix, Amazon, they make a ton of money all the time. I mean, Amazon in particular, I mean, they make money with not just by the stuff they produce. I mean, why do you think they have all these, have all these big sporting events now? The Thursday Night Football is like they paid over $1 billion over the next 11 years for those games. I mean, Netflix is getting into the sports thing, which, if you saw what happened Friday night, that was not a good thing going forward for the Christmas Day games. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I'm trying to see where, this is it's a weird time right now for The Rock in general. I mean, he's getting that backlash, but he's still sort of a reliable draw in general. I think people still do generally like him. He is a very charismatic dude. I still like him. I think he's a very good actor in general. I think he's got a lot of personality, he's got a lot of charisma to him, but like with Vin Diesel though, he's got an ego to him, and more power to him. I mean, he's done more than enough in his time to show that, hey, he deserves to have that ego overall, but just don't go just don't ask us to go into every movie that you do and expect us to really enjoy it, because it's not going to happen. But here's some good news about Red One. One, it had the best opening for a movie hatched by a streamer, besting Apple's Killers of the Flower Moon, which did $23 million last year, and it's in the vicinity of where most Christmas live-action movies open. The Rock still has a lot of star power to him, and guess what's coming out in less than 2 weeks? Moana 2. He's in there again. And right now they're saying it's going to be $135 million for the 5-day weekend. But yeah, it's a weird thing with this movie in general, because it didn't have the best opening that it wanted. But that's not to say that this movie isn't going to make a profit going forward, even if the reviews are really terrible, and the reviews have been terrible for it. I mean, but that being said, though, it's a thing where you look at it and it's just like, I look at it this way. It's a Christmas movie. We haven't gotten to Thanksgiving yet. We're still about a week and a half away from the Thanksgiving season, which is where the holiday movie season really kicks it into high gear. So I think that it's going to really depend. I think it's going to find its way. It may lose a lot of its audience next week because of what's coming out on Friday with Wicked and also Gladiator 2. But I think it will find its audience overall. I think there will be an audience for this particular movie, even though the film itself didn't really look that great to begin with. As much as I love Chris Evans, as much as I love J.K. Simmons, as much as I like this director, he did the Jumanji movies recently, which are very, very good. I'm really looking forward to see what he does with the last film. I mean, my one thoughts on it aren't really going to change the overall appeal of the audience in general, and I think the general movie-going audience will look at this movie, and if they want to find a big new Christmas blockbuster to go see this year, here you go. This is it right here. So it's a very mixed. I think it's more mixed than negative right now for Red One. It'll probably lose a lot of its audience from this weekend, next weekend, with the big new releases coming out. But I think starting with Thanksgiving weekend, it's going to have some solid weeks overall. It'll probably make its money back through worldwide box office in general, but again, kind of like with Venom: The Last Dance, it's going to mostly depend on the worldwide box office rather than the domestic box office in general. So, yeah. That's the weekend box office overall. I don't think I need to tell you what's coming out next week. The duo of Gladiator 2 and Wicked, which they're trying really, really hard to propel as the next Barbenheimer, which it's not going to be. Stop it. Like, it's two blockbusters coming out on the same day. So, okay, so what? But yeah. So that's the weekend box office in general, and hey, I got through most of this without coughing, so we're off to a great start. So let's take a little break here. We'll come back and we'll start talking about some news stories from the last couple of weeks, because it's been a very, very busy news 2 weeks, if you will. Alright, so this story came out literally 2 days after the election. And after something that was already seen as heated and controversial as the presidential election, you know what else needed to be really heated and what's always heated and controversial no matter who you talk to? Star Wars. Star Wars. And Disney is moving forward with a new plan for Star Wars. So this is the story. I have the article here from the Hollywood Reporter. Simon Kinberg is heading into hyperspace, signing an exclusive deal to write and produce a Star Wars feature trilogy. Now, of course, Simon Kinberg, if you don't know who he is, he's a very intriguing character. And let's just say that the last couple of movies he's made or has been behind have not been the strongest in general. In fact, he's the guy that's basically kind of killed the X-Men series as a whole as of late with the New Mutants, X-Men Apocalypse. He wrote and directed Dark Phoenix. He wrote and directed the 355. And yet he's found himself involved in other projects that did work. Cinderella, The Martian, the Deadpool movies, the Kenneth Branagh, Hercule Poirot movies. So he's certainly had a mixed bag of a career. He's made a lot of bad stuff, but he's also been behind a lot of good stuff as well. I mean, he was also one of the creative consultants on The Force Awakens and Rogue One. So not everything he's done is bad, but not everything he's done has been great either. But Kinberg would spearhead the launching of a new saga in the beloved galaxy far, far away, and will write the scripts for what Lucasfilms hopes will chart a brand new path forward for the sci-fi space opera universe. Lucasfilm toppler Kathleen Kennedy will also produce the new trilogy. The new story is not meant to be a continuation of the Skywalker saga, the name of the overall arc of the popular and pop culture dominating Star Wars movies known as Episodes 1 through 9. The intent here is to have brand new characters and a new story, and not have it be a continuation, sources tell the Hollywood Reporter, although that doesn't mean that some characters could not or would not pop up, which would not be surprising at all if that's not the case. But so yeah, this is it's a very interesting decision here for them to go with here. I've said it before, I will say it again, I don't care what anybody says about this. I've liked a lot of what Disney has done with Star Wars. I mean, I've really enjoyed a lot of what they've done with Star Wars as of late, through the television series, the movies. I've liked all the movies overall. The only thing I really have not liked about Star Wars as a whole, since Disney got it, was it was one of the Star Wars series. I can't remember which one. It wasn't the Acolyte, which I know everybody kind of has a mixed opinion on that one, but I think it was the... Did I say it was the Book of Boba Fett? Now I can't remember, because it's been so long since I've talked about some of the bad Star Wars stuff. I think it might have been the Book of Boba Fett overall, but they have done a lot of stuff I've really liked. I've liked Andor. I've liked the Shaka. I even liked the Acolyte. It was definitely more of a mixed bag than the other Star Wars shows that they had done. But, you know, there's stuff in there I liked overall. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with Skeleton Crew, which is looking like a Stranger Things-esque Star Wars TV show, which I'm really looking for. I'm really excited to see that. But, yeah, I've liked a lot of what they've done under Star Wars. I know a lot of people don't, but that's just my personal opinion on it. So I'm really cautiously optimistic to see what they do with this. He's also working on the Star Trek franchise, too, which we talked about that a couple months ago. Yeah, that's really not much more to say about this except the fact that a new Star Wars trilogy, it'd be really interesting to see what they could do with this. If they take it in a different direction, just don't do the same thing all over again. Expand the universe a little bit more. Let's see what we could do with the Star Wars universe in general. We don't have to involve the Skywalker family anymore. But there is a continuation to the story this week, because there was going to be 2 Star Wars movies released in 2026. We had The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is coming out for Memorial Day. But we were going to have one coming out for Christmas, and that is not going to happen anymore. Disney has removed a planned Star Wars film from its 2026 release calendar, with the latest installment of a popular animated franchise to take the slot. Ice Age 6 has now been slated to hit theaters on December 18th, 2026. They announced this back at D23 Brazil last week, and it's got all the people back for that movie. And, I don't like with the Star Wars news. I have a very mixed opinion on this, because, for one thing, I like the Ice Age movies from the first 3 films. Everything after that, more miss than hit. I mean, the best thing that they have done with the Ice Age films in general since the 3rd film was Scrat Tales, the Disney Plus show that was kind of the last thing done by Blue Sky Studios. But yeah, this is very interesting, because this is going to be the first Ice Age franchise film. It's going to be the first Ice Age movie produced without the Blue Sky Studios people involved, and it's going to be 20th Century Animation, which we haven't really seen a whole lot from them since they were absorbed into Disney in general. I mean, they have done stuff, but it's mostly been the people who have been behind that stuff in particular. Like the Bob's Burgers movie was done mostly by the people behind Bob's Burgers, and trying to look and see what they've done since then. Ron's Gone Wrong, which was co-produced by a different studio in general, that was a 20th Century Studio release. I'm very curious to see who's going to be taking over with Ice Age 6 in general. Like, who's going to be the team that's going to put this movie together? Like, is Disney going to have a hand with this, just like how they did with the last couple of Blue Sky Studios projects they had? I know Spies in Disguise had some help from the people working at Disney, but I don't know. It's going to be very, very interesting to see, nonetheless. Certainly a lot of aspects in particular to watch here in this, and yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that turns out in general. Hopefully, maybe, just maybe, they could turn it around. They could turn the Ice Age series around. The last two movies have been absolutely horrible, and then The Adventures of Buck Wild, which was on Disney Plus, was absolutely horrible. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of optimism and a lot of potential to move this series around, and I'm hoping they do turn it around. I think the Ice Age franchise deserves to have another chance again, and it'd be very curious to see what they do with this one. And supposedly, I think they got the rights to use Scrat in this one again, because if you remember from the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild, we found out that Scrat couldn't be used because the character was actually created by somebody who was not by Pixar, by Blue Sky Studios, and there was a deal that there was a deal made in a lawsuit where, you know, the trademark and the copyright for that character couldn't be used in that particular scene in that particular movie, but they were able to return for Scrat Tales in particular. So I hope they get him more involved here. Like, I would really like to see Scrat on the adventure with the crew, like Manny, Sid, Diego. Let him be a part of the storyline. Like, I think there's so much potential with what you can do with the Ice Age series going forward, instead of just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And yeah, that series got old pretty quickly, but hopefully they can turn it around with Ice Age 6. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to story number 2. My man Denzel is getting ready to be back in the spotlight this week with Gladiator 2, of course. I've talked about him as the greatest actor of all time, and you know, the greatest actor of all time deserves to be obviously the greatest project of all time. Not saying that this is the greatest project of all time, but my point is, he was on the Today Show this week to promote Gladiator 2, of course, and he let out some pretty interesting details about what one of his next movies will be. So this is from the Hollywood Reporter, and it says right here, the Marvel Cinematic Universe appears ready to return to Wakanda. Marvel Studios has not officially confirmed that the third film in the Black Panther franchise is in the works, but actor Denzel Washington on Tuesday indicated that there is, and that he will have a role. Speaking to the Today Show on Australia's Channel 9, so this wasn't NBC in the US, it was Australia, as part of a Gladiator 2 press junket, Washington said the director Ryan Coogler is writing a part for him in the next Black Panther film. When asked about his future plans, Washington said that at this point in my career, I'm only interested in working with the best. I don't know how many more films I will make, probably not that many. I want to do things that I haven't done. I'm playing Othello at 22, and now I'm going to play him at 70. I played Othello at 22, and now I'm going to play him at 70. He continued. After that, I'm playing Hannibal. After that, I've been talking with Steve McQueen about a film. After that, Ryan Coogler is writing a part for me in the next Black Panther. So, really not a major news story in particular, because it hasn't been officially confirmed, but man, Denzel Washington in a Black Panther movie by Denzel Washington in the Marvel Cinematic Universe alone is enough to get me excited, man. I mean, so much possibilities with what you can do with with him in that role, like in any role that you put him in. Like, I mean, there's so many possibilities of what you could do. I would like to see there's two characters in particular I could see. Maybe since Jonathan Majors is coming off the controversy from a couple years ago when the whole King storyline got destroyed. maybe there's an opportunity here for Kang to come back in an older form. Maybe with Denzel Washington playing the character there. I mean, wishful thinking on my part, absolutely, but just kind of an idea there. But the other one I could think of is the character from Jeffrey Wright's character from What If. What's his name? What's that character's name? The Watcher character from the Watcher from What If. Let me see. Is that the person I'm thinking of? Yeah. I think if they were going to bring the Watcher into a live action film in the MCU, I think it could work. I think he could fit that role very well. He's got the cranium to play sort of the bald-headed character from there. He speaks very much like Jeffrey Wright's character in What If does. And I don't know much about him from the comics. I just follow him through the TV series, but yeah, I feel like this could be a very, very cool idea if that's the direction that they decide to do here. To bring the character Uatu is his name. Uatu. So bringing Uatu in for Black Panther 3 could lead to a lot of potentially fun ideas in general, like playing with the multiverse idea. But again, none of this has been officially confirmed yet, so we can't really say for certain whether or not this is actually going to happen or not. But it's fun to dream. Like, what did Huey Freeman say at the end of the Boondocks Martin Luther King Jr. episode? It's fun to dream. So let's go ahead and move on to our next story. So we have a couple of remakes that are getting made. The first one that I have here is that remember the movie Idle Hands? That 1990s horror comedy with Devon Sawa where his hands get corrupted and they go around starts killing people and all that type of stuff. Like, it's a horror comedy. It's a really funny movie. So they're remaking it, and they're doing it with Finn Wolfhard and Jason Reitman producing. And I've got the story here from Variety. Finn Wolfhard and Billy Burke have signed on to write a reimagining of the 1999 horror comedy film Idle Hands from Sony Pictures that Jason Reitman will produce. Wolfhard and Burke also are being eyed to direct the new Idle Hands following the sale of their festival hit Hell of a Summer, which they co-wrote, co-directed, and co-starred and produced. Idle Hands would mark a reteaming for the duo and Reitman, who worked with Wolfhard and Burke on 2 Ghostbusters films and Saturday Night for Sony Pictures. Let's see here. The original film, which was released in 1999 and starred Devon Sawa and Jessica Alba, centers on a teenage slacker whose hands become possessed with murderous intent. Finn, who stars in Stranger Things, and Brick are committed to breathing new life into the teen movie and keeping it authentic to the demographic. So yeah, they're remaking Idle Hands, which was a silly, fun horror comedy. It was a very fun concept overall, where not only did he kill his friends, but they turned into zombies for some reason. So, it's a really, really bizarre movie, but it works very well. It's a hilarious, over-the-top horror comedy, and one that didn't get the proper respect it deserved back in the day, but it really is one that you should definitely check out. So I'm really curious to see what they do to bring a new element to it. I don't know if it's going to work, but I don't know, it might be something interesting to check out. But the other remake that was announced, one that's that's going to be very exciting for some people to hear, is that Forbidden Planet, one of the classics in sci-fi entertainment from 1956, they're finally getting ready to remake it after all these years. So this is from Deadline Hollywood, and it says that Warner Brothers has made a deal to mount a new version of the 1956 science fiction classic Forbidden Planet. The film will be written by comic book and screenwriter Brian K. Vaughan and will be produced by Emma Watts. For its forward-thinking themes, the film is considered a North Star for science fiction writing and cinema that came after it. It has never had a big screen remake, though James Cameron reportedly once considered it, partly because the rights were complicated and difficult to untangle. The studio and Watts finally got that major obstacle out of the way. The former studio chief, Watts, has leaned into producing the big, ambitious tentpoles she shepherded from the executive suits, and this has the makings to be one of them. Loosely based on Shakespeare's The Tempest, Forbidden Planet is set in the 23rd century, where the starship C-57D arrives at the distant planet Altar 4 to solve the mystery of what happens to another starship sent over 20 years prior. One of those original ship scientists, Dr. Edward Morbius, played by Walter Pidgeon, warns them not to land for safety reasons, but C-57D does so anyway. The rescue attempts are hampered by a creature that begins killing members of the crew. The ship's commander, John J. Adams, played by Leslie Nielsen back when he did mostly serious roles, unravels a mystery that involves a relic from a long-perished race that heightens intellect and does much worse. The film also stars Anne Francis as the daughter of Morbius. A major character in the film is Robbie the Robot, the first in the sci-fi film that didn't come off looking like a cheap tin can, and the beginning of the trek of AI-fueled robots that become staples of major sci-fi films to follow. So yeah, we live in a time where AI has become the new norm, and there's a lot you could do with this idea in general here. I'm actually really surprised that it's taken them this long to make a movie to make a remake of this movie in general, but the rights issues and all that are one thing in particular, but it's very interesting to see what they could do with this. I mean, like I just said, AI has become the norm here. Imagine bringing the ideas of modern AI into a film like this. But it's one of those. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing with this movie in particular because this is one of those rare 50 sci-fi movies that is not cheesy. It's not campy in any way, shape, or form. It's something where it actually has held up pretty well, considering that it's been over 70 years since this movie came. Almost 70 years since this movie came out. 70 years, right? Yeah, so close to 70 years. 1956. But I was away for so long, I lost my train of thought. I was catching the end of the Steeler game. They just went to the 2-minute warning in that one. Steelers are leading 18-10 as of right now against the Baltimore Ravens. It's been nothing but field goals. They just had trouble getting into the end zone so far. But they both sides. But I digress. We're talking about Forbidden Planet. I think what I was trying to say before I stopped recording was that Forbidden Planet is a very serious sci-fi film. It is a film that takes itself very seriously and still holds up very well because of that. It's got the effects that still hold up very well. It's a very enjoyable film. It can be very tense at times. I mean, it's going to be very hard to tackle this in a modern setting, but there's a lot of possibilities with what you could do with a modern version of the storyline, and most definitely, I'd be very curious to see how that pans out. So that's when I'd be really excited to see what if that is what they do with it, especially with whatever director they get involved in it. But so that is the story about Forbidden Planet. Let's go ahead and move on to our next story. All right, this may honestly be the greatest story this week. So we've got the Academy Awards coming up on March 2nd, I believe, and we finally got a host, and it's a pretty damn good one. Conan O'Brien is going to be hosting the 2025 Academy Awards. This was announced on Good Morning America on Friday, and it was announced in this little video that showed up on social media. Take a listen.
I'm an Oscar winner. It's amazing. Host. Oh, I'm hosting.
Yes.
I'm an Oscar host.
Exactly.
Oh, but do I still get to keep the Oscar? Oh.
That's it. It was only a very short clip in general, but so the story is that Conan O'Brien will host the 2025 Oscars. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science announced Friday, marking the first time he'll host a star-studded award show. America demanded it, and now it's happening. Taco Bell's new Cheesy Chalupa Supreme. In other news, I'm hosting the Oscars. The Emmys-winning television host, writer, producer, and comedian said in a press release. O'Brien, of course, is best known for hosting Late Night with Conan O'Brien, stepping in after David Letterman's departure, and Conan from 2010 to 2021. You don't want to mention his time at The Tonight Show? Prior to that, he was a writer for Saturday Night Live and The Simpsons. So, yeah. And, of course, Conan O'Brien has done the podcast Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend and Conan O'Brien Must Go on Max. So, not much more to say in terms of the story itself, but I was shocked when I heard about this, because I was thinking, Conan O'Brien? Not in a way it's just why him in particular? Like he's some bad thing or anything. I talked about it just recently in my 70 Years of the Tonight Show documentary, which the full version of that, by the way, will be coming out on Thanksgiving Day, so be sure to check that out. Or you could just watch the little segments now for all 6 hosts of the Tonight Show. But I said it in there that Conan O'Brien, I think, is the greatest entertainer that we have, because he has not lost his muster even after all these years. He's not lost his his sense of comedy, the fact that he's still very hilarious, the fact that his bits still hold up after all these years. You know, he's still one of the greatest entertainers that we have right now, if not the greatest entertainer, because of just how he's been able to continue doing what he does best. And he's always willing to do whatever it takes, even when everybody's trying their hardest to push him back. Like, of course, if you remember, back when he started doing his late night show, he did not have the best success with the late night with Conan O'Brien show at first, and it took time for him to get going. His Tonight Show didn't start off successful, and unfortunately NBC was already triggered to get him out of there because Jay Leno wanted his show back. And, you know, TBS, everyone thought he was dead after that, and, you know, after he went to TBS, and he has thrived since he moved to TBS because he's been able to do whatever he wants to do. He's been able to take his approach and concept and expand it into this vast empire where it's still very funny and very entertaining even after all these years. So, yeah, I'm really excited for this. I'm curious of why they're picking him, but maybe this is a sign that maybe of a comeback going forward in terms of returning to the late night television form. I don't want to say maybe at ABC because Jimmy Kimmel's contract is coming up in about 2 years' time. But I mean, it's very weird. It's very interesting that they went to Conan O'Brien now. But regardless, it's a great decision in my opinion. Like, the Oscars has already won this year. And I'm really excited to see what he brings to the table here. I think this is the culmination of everything he's been through, and like this is definitely going to be a ton of fun to watch it more. So I'm definitely looking forward to watching that, no question about it. So with that said, let us go ahead and move on to our next story. And speaking of AI, yeah, we mentioned AI before in the show, but oh boy, I have a lot to say about one certain company's new holiday commercial which uses AI. So as you already know, it's the holiday season coming up, and we've got Christmas. We've of course got Christmas coming up, and you know, all the holiday commercials on TV are already starting to play. Wow, I'm sorry to interrupt my story here, but the Steelers survived the first test of this hell run. They beat the Baltimore Ravens. It was not a peaceful looking game. It was very ugly, but then again, that's what this rivalry is all about. And Ravens had chances. Ravens almost came back and tied the game, but 18-16 the final score. Steelers are going to 8-2. The Ravens dropping to 7-4. So yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt on that, but yeah. That was happening. That's why I stopped recording, because the last couple seconds of the game were happening there. But I didn't really get a chance to see the full game itself, though, so I don't really know how they did overall. But I'm guessing it was very much what you'd expect from a Ravens-Steelers game. So, with that said, let's get back to the topic at hand that I was going to get to. But yeah, you're going to get these classic holiday commercials on the air. We talked about them in the past. The Pennsylvania Lottery holiday commercials they've been playing on TV. We had the Eaton Park Christmas one we talked about last year. And, of course, we got some new ones this year. And, of course, one of the classics is Coca-Cola. You know, they have a whole assortment of classic Christmas commercials that they play on TV every holiday season. But this year in particular, they have decided to go ahead and do something that has got a lot of people very upset. And after seeing what I've had to experience watching said commercial, I tend to agree with them. And I'll talk about that after I just let you hear a little bit of this in just a second here. So let me go ahead and just play a little bit of the clip of the commercial right here, because there's like different incarnations of it. There's like a 15-second, different versions of it, I should say. A 15-second version, 30-second version, 60-second version. Here's the 15-second version. And if you watch along here, you can kind of figure out why everyone's getting so negative about this whole thing. Oh, real magic, huh? Real magic. It's just like this commercial was made with real magic. Because everyone wants to keep pretending like AI is the big thing. But, yeah, if you watch this commercial in particular, you know exactly why this is as bad as it looks. And let me see if I could get a story here for you so I can run down what exactly this is. If you haven't seen this already, but let's see. Where do I want to go? Give me 1 second. All right, here's the story from the New York Post, and it says, AI is coming to town this holiday season, and soda lovers aren't feeling festive about it. Coca-Cola is receiving backlash online after creating an AI-generated... Stupid pop-ups. Creating an AI-generated Christmas commercial, which has been slammed as creepy dystopian nightmares. Which, yeah, I can't really argue that. Paying homage to Coca-Cola's 1995 Holidays Are Coming campaign, the new 15-second advert depicts a fleet of cherry red trucks driving down a snowy road to deliver ice-cold bottles of cola to customers in a festively decorated town. The video has a disclaimer in small print created by Real Magic AI. It's like, yeah, not only did you fail with this commercial, you failed with your slogan because you literally just used the same thing that you used to create the software and use that as your slogan in general. But that's one of the many problems with this commercial. While the campaign offers a snapshot of what the future of commercials might look like, many consumers were not feeling the holiday spirit, you think? Criticizing the beverage brand's clip as garbage, ugly, and lazy. And if you watch this, you can watch this and really examine it. I'm gonna slow this down for you so I can pinpoint everything that's wrong with this commercial. I'll have a link to it in the comments below so you can watch along. But I just want you to look at this. So I'm going to start it right here. Starts off not looking too bad the first couple seconds. Even the scene with the polar bears is actually not that bad looking. I mean, it doesn't look great, but it doesn't look like it's that awful. I mean, it looks like the polar bears from the old Coke commercials. So we're moving along here. We're starting to see some of the flaws starting to come into place here. Like you see in the corner, like as the trucks are coming in, on the left edge of the screen, you see these guys there, and they all look like they don't look like real people there. Like the scope of this scene in particular, like the scaling, is way off. Like you can't tell what the height regulations are in this world. Like what angle are we looking at this from? It's really uncomfortable to take a look at here. But let's keep moving here, because as we're gonna see in about a few seconds, these two people that just show up on here, they clearly look like something is off with them. Like they look like just from the teeth. Look at the way the teeth look. Like they don't look like they have regular teeth and all. Oh, you can see like the teeth are like barely just struggling to hold on in there. They look like the fakest smiles ever. Like they don't even look like real teeth. They look like the type of teeth that you get like at a joke shop or something. But like just the way they move, the way their eyes are moving, the fact that they're not blinking at all. But like it just. Like, you really need to dig deep into this commercial. And, like, we have a scene where Santa is giving this kid, I'm guessing it's a kid, a Coke, and it's like, the way he's giving him this Coke, it's just like the arm is, like, moving really weird. Like, it's not moving like a normal Santa Claus hand. And it's just like, just something is, you could just tell that this whole commercial, it's not a kid, it's a older guy, and even this older guy has a weird look to his face. Like it's his teeth, and again, like he's got this really weird looking grimace on his face. Like it's like a mix of a shit-eating grin, but at the same time, like his again, the teeth are like all completely messed up here, and it makes no sense why this looks like this at all. Like this is supposed to be the future of technology, but the more we look at what AI is doing here, we're looking at pretty much every reason why the people in Hollywood went on strike because of this. And it's good to know that the people went on strike last year. They didn't work for half the year to have a commercial like this be completely look as bad as this. Like, if you want to see what a really good Coke commercial can look like, where it looks like AI, but it's not, there's always a commercial that I always remember, and I was looking it up again yesterday to get ready for this. I've got it right here. It's called Santa Sunbloom, And now this is actually based off of the old vintage Coke ads from like back in the day. Like the whole commercial was done it's directed by a glass painter who Alexander Petrov is his name, and he actually won an Academy Award. I'm trying to let me see if I can look up his information here. Alexander. I'm actually kind of surprised I'm not coughing at this point, but okay, here we go. I found it right here. Alexander Petrov. He is a Russian animator, and his artistic styles have been used in stuff like The Old Man of the Sea, and he's done a lot of. He's got a very unique style to it, and he does a very good job of also handling, it does a very good job of bringing like the old school ads from something you'd see out of Norman Rockefeller, like the Norman Rockefeller posters back in the day, bringing it to life the way that he does here. It's a really good commercial. I'm actually going to play it for you right here. So just take a look. I also have a link to it below too. Before you get I've lost my train of thought there for a second. Okay, sorry about that. But I'll leave a link to this commercial down below as well, so you could go check it out. But the commercial is called Santa Sunbloom, and I just want you to watch along, or just at least listen in, and I'll tell you why this is a much better Coke commercial that looks like AI, but it's not, than the one that actually uses AI and looks terrible. Here's the reason why this commercial works as well as it does. It's a commercial that really looks like a moving painting when you really look at it, because it does look like the old vintage paintings that we used to see a lot in like the old school Norman Rockefeller magazine scenes, like Saturday Evening Post, that type of stuff. Just the movements, the way that the way that characters move in particular, like, you can analyze all the different animation that is in this and just see how great it really looks. Like, this came out in 2001, and the fact that I really am shocked that this has held up as well as it has had after all these years. It's a really fantastic commercial, a very well done one that just really, it captures the spirit of Christmas in general. It feels like something that was made for the 1960s. Like, it's a really good timeless commercial. Like, it's a really well done commercial. Like, you don't need a lot of dialogue here. You get the point of what's happening, and it just works. It works very well on so many levels. It's especially with the animation, which just looks beautiful and just looks like it still holds up so well after 23 years. Like, it's incredible, man. It's an incredible commercial. And when I saw the new Coke ad, I just had to see if I could find this commercial again, and I'm so glad I did, because, man, I think this commercial is a million times better than whatever the hell Coke was putting out this year, because, my God, that was horrible. But this commercial right here, Santa Sunbloom, by the way, this is how you make this is how you make a really good Christmas commercial without using AI. Like, so far I have yet to see what AI in entertainment in general, like in terms of movies and television and, like, music overall and commercials, like, I've very rarely seen where that has worked so well. And if we can't figure it out pretty soon, like, we really need to have that conversation on whether or not AI is really worth it, or it just makes what we had to go through last year completely pointless. Like, what was the point of going on strike when the studios are going to do it anyway? Like, yeah. So bottom line, that's what I wanted to cover here in general. But yeah. Bottom line, new Coke commercial sucks. So yeah. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next story. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a big wrap up to a story we've been covering on this show for the past year. And if you don't remember what it is, we were talking about The NBA rights. Early in the summer, it was officially finalized that NBC was going to get most of the NBA games that were on TNT. ABC locked up a new deal. Amazon got a big deal. And Warner Brothers, David Zaslav's Warner Brothers was trying hard to save its last major big cash cow for them. And there has been a settlement in this. There has been an agreement made. And it's very interesting of what's going to happen here. But I've got the story here from the Hollywood Reporter. This is by the Associated Press, by the way, too. But according to the Hollywood, it's on the Hollywood Reporter website, but it literally says by the Associated Press. But so this is the scenario. Inside the NBA will appear on ESPN and ABC beginning next season as part of a settlement between Warner Brothers Discovery and the NBA. Warner Brothers Discovery, the parent company of TNT Sports, sued the NBA in New York State Court after the league did not accept the company's matching offer for one of the packages in its new 11-year media rights deal, which will begin with the 2025-26 season. The settlement is expected to be announced on Monday. 3 people with knowledge of the deal told the Associated Press on Saturday night. The people spoke on condition of anonymity. Do I vote? I think that's how I'm saying it right. Anonymity. I feel like Nemo from Finding Nemo. It's just like it's when the bus driver's asking him about what's that moment. Okay, I found I remember what it was. It wasn't the bus driver. It was the teacher. He asked him the question about what kind of home you live in, and he's just like, and then Nemini.
Oh, hello. Who is this?
I'm Nemo.
Well, Nemo, all new explorers must answer a science question.
Okay.
You live in what kind of home? Okay, don't hurt yourself. Welcome aboard,
Yeah, that's what it is with this word here. Anonymity. I think it's. Let me see if I can. Hold on a second. I gotta figure out the pronunciation of this before I continue. Anonymity. Okay, I finally got it right. Anonymity because litigation remains ongoing. The deadline to have the lawsuit dismissed is Tuesday. The settlement was first reported by the Wall Street Journal. Even though inside the NBA will be on ESPN and ABC beginning with the 2025-26 season, TNT Sports will continue to produce the popular studio show and will air from Atlanta except when the show goes on the road. The quartet of Ernie Johnson, Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and Shaquille O'Neal will remain with the show. Barkley signed an extension with WBD in August despite the company losing the NBA. Inside the NBA is expected to air during key market moments of the league's calendar, opening night, Christmas Day, the playoffs, and the NBA Finals. It's also likely it will be on during Saturday nights, the second half of the season when ABC has primetime package of games. The settlement gives TNT Sports, Bleacher Report, and House of Highlights a global content license for NBA content with no rights fees for the next 11 years. So, yeah, they've essentially come to an agreement. The NBA is still going... Excuse me. But the NBA is still going away from TNT as a whole, in terms of its games itself, but not all the way. I mean, there's still, with this deal, it basically keeps the Warner Brothers in the loop here, and it's one of the rare times that you have Disney and Warner Brothers working together on something like this. I think it's one of the first times since Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I mean, they probably have done it other times since then, but this is a very interesting situation here. But it ends what has been a very trying time for them in terms of trying to get this done. David Zaslav struggling mightily to keep this company to keep this together, because this is, like I said, the last big cash cow he has left to him because of what he's done to that company since he's taken over. And it's just like, this isn't even really a win for him in general, but I am glad to see that they're keeping the old crew around. I'm glad to see that everybody's coming back for this. Like, Inside the NBA really is one of the greatest pre-sports shows out there. I mean, there's no question about it. And losing that, I think, would have been massive for the sports, not just the NBA, but the sports world in general. I'm glad they were able to strike a deal. I'm glad to see that it's going to be continuing on another network. And, good times all around. So let's celebrate that, and let's celebrate the good things about sports. But next up, let's talk about the worst things about sports, if you want to even call what took place on Friday night a sport. But let's talk about that in just a second. It's funny how the world works sometimes. You try to. Sometimes when everyone's talking about this big event that really isn't a big event until the day of the event, like, it never comes across your mind, but then everyone's talking about it for reasons that are beyond me. I don't even know where I'm trying to go with this intro here. I'm just trying to pad this out for some particular reason. But the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight happened on Friday night finally. That fight that everyone had been begging for. I mean, everyone was saying, okay, we get to see a 58-year-old Mike Tyson beating up a 27-year-old Jake Paul. Like, when this was first announced earlier in the year, I had to look at this and go, like, I immediately looked at it and go, like, okay, this has got to be one of the stupidest things I've ever heard of. And yet, after all these months of waiting, we finally got it, and we finally got the event. And I will say this, I was not disappointed, because I knew exactly how this shit was going to go. And me and 65 million people in the country were duped. Because, what did you think was going to happen? Like, you really thought that a 58-year-old Mike Tyson was going to beat up Jake Paul? No, of course not. And that's not because of what you think. I think Mike Tyson could beat him in real life if this is, but we know exactly what this whole thing was. This was nothing but a cheap entertainment effort, and it would have been fine if we had something that actually constituted as an actual fight. But no, the fight went pretty much what you expected. The younger dude obviously beat up the older guy. Woohoo! But the whole thing with this whole thing was so ridiculous and so stupid. Like, the best way to describe what this is, you ever remember that bit they did on First Take back when Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless were still there, and there was a bit they did where they had a question about someone asked the question about Michael Jordan and LeBron James. This is like a thing they did back in 2015. There was like a poll out where a lot of people there was about 34% of people. They did like a poll of NBA fans that thought that Michael Jordan, who was 52 in 2015, could beat LeBron James, who was, I believe, had to be in about his close to 1984, so just into his 30s, 31 years old. So there was a belief that 34% of people believed that a 52-year-old Michael Jordan in 2015 could beat a 31-year-old LeBron James one-on-one. And then they go on this debate about what could they actually do it. And of course, Skip Bayless, he's the one that's got to be like, I think Michael Jordan can, but he could do it if I train him. And he needs a little time, he needs to get in shape again, and he needs to lay off the cigarettes, the cigars and all that. And it's just like, you're going to be the one to train Michael Jordan. Like, imagine that. But luckily that battle never happened. Imagine if that actually happened, but instead of two of the greatest basketball players of all time, we get one of the greatest boxers of all time, who's also a freaking nutjob and a criminal too, and also another guy who is an obnoxious asshole and also a criminal too. I think he actually has gone to jail several times for numerous things in particular. In fact, him and his brother too. But I digress. Like, this whole thing was so ridiculous. I didn't even bother. I wasn't even gonna check out the fight in particular. It was mostly because my dad actually wanted to watch the fight. I did have a Netflix account, so I let him use it. And so he was watching the fight, and of course the controversies were with that Netflix was facing widespread technical difficulties that plagued the event's live stream. Many people were unable to watch the fight due to buffering. And, there was a lot of microphones, earpieces experiencing difficulties. There was a lot of problems with, like, the technical stuff, which, does not bode well for the NFL on Christmas Day, by the way, which I'm lucky that the Steelers and the Chiefs game will be on local television where I'm at. But And again, I probably shouldn't be lucky because it's the Steelers and Chiefs, and of course we might know how that turns out. But yeah, like this whole thing is just like Netflix, for something that you hyped up to be this big event in particular. You really should have made sure all the kinks were put out before you decided to do this. In fact, this thing was supposed to happen in July of this year. They postponed it because there was Mike Tyson and an ulcer tear. I think he had up in his what was it? An ulcer flare up. I'm sorry, but they postponed it from July to November, so he had time to do that. You could have used those 4 months to get better technical equipment for this. Like, there is no reason for you to be this lazy about this whole thing, but. Yeah, that's just that's one of those that's ridiculous on how that worked out in particular. And the funny thing is, I knew 10 minutes before my dad actually saw the results of the fight itself who actually won, and I didn't even tell him about it. But I mean, we all knew what this was going to be. Like, this was not even going to be an actual fight. Like, because we know Mike Tyson in real life is a real boxer, and he would beat the crap out of somebody like Jake Paul because he's not a boxer. He's an entertainer, and not a very good one, to be quite honest with you. But let's talk about what this whole thing was really about. I don't even know if my mic's going to be able to catch that, but I'm putting my fingers together because that's the international sign for money. You know how much these two guys made off of this fight? Jake Paul made $40 million on this fight. Mike Tyson made $20 million on this fight. Mike Tyson made more money than punches in this fight. I want you to think about that for a second. Mike Tyson had like 18 punches in this entire fight. And he made $20 million off of it. And I know some people want to say, like, hey, more power to him, man. Like, you just do what you got to do. But Mike Tyson's been around for so many years, and he's made so much money over the years. Unless he's got, like, a real money way of keeping money around and all that. Like, there was no reason why did we even do this for $20 million. Like, this whole thing was a complete waste of time on so many levels. Like, nobody cared. Nobody really wanted to see this fight in particular and watch it for a legitimately good reason. Like, everyone I think was watching it because everybody else would stop shutting the fuck up about it. Like, really, like what did we really get out of this? What were we supposed to take away from this? Oh, Jake Paul beat up a near 60-year-old boxer. Woohoo! So what? He beat up an old guy. Like, it makes no sense why we bother to watch this. The fight that was before this, the battle between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, was much more interesting and much more exciting to watch. Like, that was a good fight. This was not. Like, it's unbelievable how much time was wasted on this whole thing. Like, this is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in my life. This whole thing was an embarrassment on so many levels. And guess which place it took place in? AT&T Stadium, where the home team that owns that stadium, the Dallas Cowboys, are struggling right now. And they probably looked at this and said, finally, the heat is off us for at least a day. Let these guys come in here and have a terrible have a terrible day. Oh, and by the way, they closed the curtains up there too, so CeeDee Lamb, see, what does that even? That doesn't even make any sense. Why did they close the curtains for this and not for a home game at 1 o'clock? Is at 1 o'clock local time? Like, that makes no sense at all. Kind of like this fight in general. This made no sense at all to do this. And but we're not done yet because we still have a lot more to delve into about this whole thing. Because let's talk about the reactions from most people. Most people I saw online pretty much said the same thing I did. Like, it was a disaster on so many levels. It was an embarrassing moment for television, for the world of boxing. Like this is it was one of the most ridiculous, stupidest things I've ever seen in my life. ESPN was having a ball with this whenever they had to show highlights for this. Like, you could tell they did not want to do this in any way, shape, or form, but they were technically obligated to do so, and the way they did this was absolutely perfect. I saw this on SportsCenter not too long after the fight had ended, but take a listen to it. Just take a listen to this. Let me turn the mic on first. Hold on. Shut up. Yeah, I tried to do this on Instagram, and I realized that the audio was off. So let me go ahead and just go over to here. We'll do it this way. All right, here we go. Now let's try that again.
It was an event so many people didn't want to see, and for a while.
Now it starts off with them doing a parrot. The screen was buffering because, of course, that happened during the fight.
Couldn't see it, but he also couldn't help but from watching. 58-year-old Mike Tyson, the former
And then they show Mike Tyson. He let his ass hang out during the pre-show. They just showed that out of the Sports Center, but they blurred out the ass, of course.
Taking on YouTube sensation Jake Paul. Look, Netflix had some issues, and I went to this with the buffering. So we picked up the third round. You saw Paul land a few left hooks. Now Tyson won the first round, by the way. Fifth round, though, Jake Paul.
Like, he punched him right in the face, and it's just that looked like it hurt. Like that.
Oh, the big right hand. Obviously, Mike, not the same dude at 58 years old.
You think? Almost as if this was entirely scripted the whole way out through.
Clearly didn't have the legs or the stamina towards the end. Just an 8th round bout between these two, and Jake Paul, unanimous decision over Mike Tyson. I'm glad it's over. Me
too, Stan. Me too. That's Stan Verrett, by the way, who said, is glad it's over. Because it's just like, yeah, we're all glad it's over, because a lot of us just wasted 3 hours of our time on a fight that we knew was going to be fucking stupid. And, yeah, this is about what you expected to happen. If you had a brain and you weren't going to be like that person, it's just like, well, I think Mike Tyson will win this. It's just like, no. If you thought Mike Tyson was going to win this after the way that this was all setting up, like, this was scripted. This was fixed from the get-go, man. But didn't stop people from making those fake anger videos, because I found this video online on Twitter. And then not too long after that, I realized that I've seen this person do this before so many times. I've got this video right here. This is a funny Mike who destroyed a television over the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight. And yeah, this guy has done this before. We've actually had some fun with his videos over the last couple of years. He got mad about the Super Bowl against the Eagles and the Chiefs. He did the same thing to that TV. If you remember this. Like, if you watch the TV, it's still got the yellow sticker on the bottom left, from like when you open it out of the box. And then if you keep watching, the thing wasn't even taped to the wall correctly. Like, but again, this is not the last time he would do this either. It's not the first time he'd do this either, because when the Golden State Warriors lost to the Toronto Raptors in 2019, he did this. So yeah, you lost too much money on every one of these games, yet you have more than enough money to go out and get another television and continue to do this. Like, I should have figured it out right from the get-go that this newer video that came out was fake. But that's not the part that really gets me. The part that gets me is what happens later on in this video, in the newest video. if you seriously have to ask the question of who won a matchup between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson on Netflix, like, if you can't figure it out, you've really got to be one of some really stupid people to think that. And maybe I'm the crazy one. Maybe I'm the minority that thinks that this is this is one of the stupidest things ever, because apparently everybody else was so hooked in on it. But let's just put it this way. I want to make one more comparison to this before I get on out of here. The whole Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight was so bad, it made celebrity boxing look legitimate. Now, if you don't remember celebrity boxing, oh boy, you kids are about to have a lovely, lovely history lesson. Celebrity boxing was a Fox TV show in which celebrities whose careers and or notoriety had diminished were pitted against each other in exhibition boxing matches. The contestants wore headgear during the fights, which were scheduled for 3 rounds apiece, and there were 2 episodes. The fights included Danny Bonaducci versus Barry Williams, Todd Bridges versus Vanilla Ice, Paula Jones versus Tanya Harding, and then there was a second one that featured Darva Conger, the woman who notoriously went on the show Who Wants to Marry a Millionaire, that another terrible Fox show from back in the day, facing off against Olga Corbett, who was charged for shoplifting $19 worth of groceries just 4 months prior to the match. Why? There was Dustin Diamond, Screech from Saved by the Bell, and Rob Polio. Why? There was who was the other one? Manute Bol versus William the Refrigerator Perry. There was Joey Buttafuoco taking on Joni Lawler, Chyna from the WWE. So they had a wrestler there at least. But I mean, what really do you have to say about that series? It wasn't even a series. It was just the whole concept of it was, let's watch these has-been celebrities beat the living shit out of each other for an hour. But it was a joke. It was an insulting joke. And half the fights didn't look real. It looked like they were trying to bring that style of WWE scripted fighting into professional boxing, but with celebrities, which would have been fun if the celebrities they got were actually people we want to see, like a fight for charity. Like, imagine if you had Stallone beating up Schwarzenegger in a fight for charity. But no, we get Todd Bridges and Vanilla Ice, which would be fine in 1992, but not 2002. Like, it's so ridiculous, but celebrity boxing is more legitimate than the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight. Think about that. Really think about what we just saw on Friday. That whole thing was such a waste of everybody's time. Nobody got anything out of it, and the only people that got anything out of it were the 2 fighters who are really laughing their asses off. Who are laughing their asses off with their money and their hookers and blow and their drugs and their beer or alcohol, whatever you want to say about it. I'm sounding really, really old right now. I know, but the bottom line here is that this was a complete waste of everybody's time. I didn't even want to watch it. I just was suckered into it because everyone else would shut the hell up about it. So I watched it, and I think everybody else, I've immediately regretted that decision. So anyway, let's go ahead and get the hell on out of here with recommendations. And considering my current medical situation right now, I'm actually kind of surprised I did pretty well throughout the course of this. Able to survive the whole thing. But in terms of recommendations this week, the only real big one that comes out this week is Beetlejuice, which of course came out a couple months ago. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a fun sequel for a movie that I was not expecting to be all that great, considering how long it had been since the last movie, but it was one I kind of enjoyed, and I'm actually looking forward to getting the Blu-ray for it this week. I found out today when I went to Walmart that I guess Marcel, the Show with Shoes On, which was a great movie that came out a couple years ago from A24, I think is getting a physical release. I saw a tag for it, but I couldn't find anything for it online. Not on Walmart's website or anything. So I need to do some more information on that, but I think if I read it right, that is Marcel the Show with Shoes On is coming out in physical media next week, and if it is, I'm going to try to find it somewhere. Hopefully I can find it at that Walmart I went to, but yeah, other than that, I think the only real recommendation this week is Beetlejuice. So Godzilla -1 comes out for everyone to pick up this week too. I highly recommend that as well. So I did it. I survived this week with end the show, even with my current situation right now. But thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and also dealing with this. But I had a good time this week. I was glad I was able to get through this. I was able to get through the show with no problems whatsoever. But I really do appreciate you guys listening and watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the notification button. Check out some of the other episodes we've done. And I'll be back with another episode next Sunday. So thank you so much for watching and listening, and I will see you guys next time. Until then, we are out.